On this episode of the Veteran Business Community Podcast, I'm talking to Steve Golding from Meeting Hub. So if you've ever wanted to build an app or a SaaS, that's software as a solution product, stick around and have a listen because Steve is the founder of Meeting Hub, a really simple business idea, which means that anyone who's got space can make revenue from renting that space out. So Steve, great guy, former Navy guy. We talk a lot about that. We talk a lot about software. We talk about a lot about business. So stick around. Steve Golding. On this episode of the Veteran Business Community Podcast, I'm chatting with Steve Golding from Meeting Hub today. G'day, Steve.
Good, Pete. How you doing?
Good, mate. Good. No, we crossed paths many years ago when I just started kicking off this idea of the veteran business community, and you were at that time traveling the country and running your business from the road, and here we are 3 or whatever years later, and just love to catch up and see where your journey's taken you.
Yeah, well, it's been an interesting couple of years since we last met. You're right. I was just about to jump into a 1983 Toyota Coaster bus that we restored called Kenny the Coaster.
I love it.
Be careful if you mention his name because you can invoke all kind of badness. He was a beautiful thing. A lot of good vibes in Kenny, a lot of good memories. He was actually named after my dad. His name was Ken. He used to have a couple of coasters. And the first thing about a Toyota Coaster bus is on a quiet night, if you listen very carefully, you can hear him rust. But he was a champion. We got to see more of New South Wales than we expected because it was in the middle of lockdown. So yeah, we still need to do a reboot on that trip, but yeah, there's always time.
Mate, love it. And what a great way to live life is, I was in India and Sri Lanka last week, and I just take my little brown satchel and I'm working wherever I am in the world. But mate, let's go back a little bit. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Engadine in the Sutherland Shire. Born and bred in the Shire. I lived there until I was 17 when I joined the Navy. Went to Engadine High, which was a good high school. There was only 2 high schools, really, 3, Bosco, Heathcote, or Engadine. And that was really not a lot of choice. Grew up on Kingswood Road in the family home, which was with a lot of good memories there.
Kingswood Road, Engadine High School, mate. Sounds like a pretty classic Aussie upbringing in the burbs.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't live on a more Australian street than Kingswood, right?
Yeah, that's it. Now, what made you join the army so young? Oh, sorry, the Navy so young.
Honest to God truth, I think if I didn't join, I probably would have ended up in prison. I was in a bit of trouble, a bit of strife. My parents separated when I was quite young. So there was no strong role model in my life in those early days. I think I was probably about 11, 12 when they separated. I used to see my dad every fortnight. We maintained a good relationship, and he was a lot of inspiration behind me getting into business. And I needed some adventure. I needed some discipline. And it was a conscious decision to change the direction of my life because I didn't like the direction that my life was going in. I was in a bit of trouble with the police. I'm not too proud of some of the things that I did. And I just thought, right, you got to change things around. This isn't who you want to be. It's not your family values and stuff.
Well, it's a pretty mature thing to do at that age. Any reason in particular Navy instead of Army or Air Force?
Yeah, my uncle Ross, he was in the Navy. He was a radar plotter. So I looked across the 3 services, and I remember growing up and always seeing he had these tattoos on his forearms, the quintessential hula girl. And he was a lovely guy. Sadly, he passed away from a defence-related disease, cancer. He was a radio operator, so he was exposed to some nasty stuff. But it was something that I felt I wanted to do. There was nobody else in the family in the military at the time. My dad had served in the AIF, and it was time for an adventure.
17, mate. And what were those first couple of years like? Was it everything you thought it would be?
It was. I mean, the first thing was probably pretty daunting, as it is for all of us. I jumped onto a bus at a recruitment centre in Sydney. Didn't know anybody. I'd never been on an aeroplane before until I flew down to Melbourne. So that was pretty confronting. And 17 years old, right? hop off the bus and, try and figure out which way's up. It was good. The first couple of years were really, really great. I really enjoyed the training. I was a radio operator. So the two key things we had to be able to do was send and receive Morse code and type. So very early in my training, I used to be able to play the piano. So by about week 8, I was typing up around 40 words a minute already. So they said to me, look, we're going to put you into more Morse code. And I think I hit 22 or 24 words a minute. Got a tap on the shoulder. Yeah. I was quick, real quick.
Can you still do it? Just out of curiosity?
Yes. Yeah.
Is it like something that's just embedded in your head forever?
So probably about 2 years ago, I was sitting at home on a Friday night having a couple of beers, and I asked myself the same question. So you can go online and Google Morse code or CW generator, and you can choose your frequency, your speed, whether you want letters, numbers, and it's a really weird skill. You hear letters, you see words, and then you write it down as you go. And I thought, I wonder if I can still do it. So fired it up, picked up a pen, piece of paper, and it was like Rain Man. It just comes flooding back. Like I still know the full alphabet. I still know all my numbers. I'm a bit scratchy on punctuation, but the basics, I can still do it.
Right. It's just like one of those songs that you hear in your teens, and you still know every single word. It just sits locked in there.
Yeah. I sometimes wish I could move some of that and create space for some other things that I need to be able to remember, like, important dates, anniversaries, kids' birthdays and stuff. But hey, I'm pretty good with the kids' birthdays.
So you did 10 years in the military, like it was generally, I guess, peacetime, 89 to 99, I believe your years were, but Navy boats go to sea. So whereas in those times, there might not be a lot for Army or anything to do until Timor kicked off, ships go to sea. That's what ships do. Did you see much of the world?
Yeah, absolutely. So I went as far north as Korea, to mainland US, Hawaii, all through Southeast Asia. I spent a month in Antarctica doing border protection duties down there. And as a radio operator, we had a pretty unfamily friendly sea to shore roster. So we'd do 3 years to a sea posting to 18 months ashore. And basically for that 3 years, you went wherever that ship went. Didn't get a great deal of choice. Your choice was East Coast or West Coast, depending on where you are. And then on most of the ships, as a Kellic RO, leading seaman, there was only 3 people on board that did the job that we did, so it was quite specialised. But yeah, I loved it. But it's tough on family. I remember one year I did 9 months away out of 12. Missed my first child's first birthday. I got a photograph of her when I came back off the ship, and I'm squatting down next to her. She learnt to walk while I was away. Yeah. And my wife had to actually sort of gently encourage her and push her towards me and say, that's your dad. It was pretty heartbreaking.
Wow.
Yeah.
And these are some of the things, like I remember, when I was in the Army, there's quite a lot of operations going on, Afghanistan, Timor, Iraq, Solomons, there's stuff going on everywhere. And the amount of people that, just missed births of kids, and this was just, that particular time made sense for Army because it's a very operational heavy, but Navy's just always been that you just got to go to sea.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And it's really instilled in you from the beginning. Once you finish your training, that's it. You want to get out in the fleet. So I served on board HMAs Tobruk, which was a landing ship heavy. We had an Army detachment on board there with the Larks. I also spent time on HMAS Success, replenishment ship. And then after that, HMAS Newcastle, guided missile frigate. Newcastle, I went down to Antarctica on. That was scary as hell. Like,
man, tell me about
here you are.
Yeah, keep going.
Here you are on a warship with 220 odd people on it, waves breaking on the forecastle, surfing down the front of waves, and you can feel the cavitation as the screws stick out of the back of the waves. It was terrifying. Yeah.
Mate, I don't have many Navy worries, but I did do about, I think it was maybe 16 or 17 days on Canimbla. And so it was part of Talisman Sabre. So we pushed off out of Townsville, and we were doing an amphibious landing for Talisman Sabre. But I think for 13 of the 17 days, we were doing submarine evasion. And there's not much for Army guys to do during submarine evasion. And yeah, no, like, to be honest, it wasn't my favorite experience in life. I felt like I was trapped, like I was in jail. There was nowhere to go. I couldn't do anything. And the sea was just up and down and up and down. But mate, Antarctica, it's obviously on the bucket list, amazing place. I've got a mate who is ship's crew on what's called the RSV Nuyina. I haven't pronounced that correctly. That's the new icebreaker Australia's got down there. So he's got a great gig, man. Goes down to Antarctica, 3 or 4 times a year. But what was Antarctica like for you? Did you get off?
No, it was absolutely stunning. Probably the first thing that sticks out in my mind was it was daylight the whole time. So we were down there in summer. Yep. So you come up on the bridge, 2:00 in the morning, it was twilight, super cold. Life expectancy in the water was about 2 minutes, so not real long. Before we left Sydney, we had additional guardrails and safety harnesses put all around level 01 deck, and you weren't allowed outside unless you had harnesses on. Up on the higher decks, I used to smoke at the time, so I'd have to go outside for a cigarette and actually wear a full thermal suit. There was some. I'll tell you a funny story. I'll probably get in trouble for it, but that's okay. It's a long time ago. They put the helo up, and we were using the helo to intercept illegal fishermen. And they decided to go over the top of Heard and McDonald Island and go and have a little bit of a look. There's massive penguins there. I think they're king penguins or something.
Yep.
We were watching the footage on the helo at the time, and the helo comes in and comes down to land. And all these inquisitive little penguins walk over to see what's going on, and because we could see the video feed back on board, and all these penguins are looking up as this big noisy thing comes down. They weren't scared; they just didn't know what it was. As they get closer and closer, the rotor blast just blew all these penguins. They all go rolling out of the way. It was hilarious. They weren't meant to be there, so they came down, dropped, had a little bit of a look around, and come back. It was an interesting place. Things like battery life on all your gear was halved because of the cold. We were using a lot of HF radio back then, so you could burst through the ionosphere a whole lot easier because you had to use a lower frequency in order for radio communication. So it was a challenging environment to operate in because, of course, everything moves, as you know, the ship.
Yeah.
So working at sea in a rough sea state is a real challenge, and it's dangerous too. You're bashing into the walls all the time, trying to sleep.
Man, I just like whatever they are, little shorts or Facebook snippets and all that kind of stuff, or X or Twitter of massive seas. And man, it's not for me. It's absolutely not for me.
We hit one night. So where our mess deck was, we were basically 2 decks down below water. And I remember in bed one night, Jimmy Churches was sleeping in the bunk opposite me, and it was that rough. We actually had seatbelts on. We couldn't sleep, so we went up to the main cafe. And at one point, the ship heeled over and just hung there, and it felt like an eternity before it started to swing back. We hit a 38-degree roll. We had to actually report it back to Maritime Headquarters that it was a significant roll, and the ship was fine. But they're actually designed so all superstructure. So I asked the skipper, what the hell happens if we roll? And a lot of the superstructure is designed to just fall off, so it'll be self-righting. So the whole time we were down there, the whole ship was closed down to 1 Zulu, so we were effectively airtight and positive pressure in the event we rolled.
I got it. It can be shivers just to think about it.
But you know what it's like when you're out fishing with a mate of yours and you're coming back in over the bar and you start to slide down the front. It was like that.
Yeah.
How ballistic glass.
And how long is a ship? Like 60, 80 meters long or something like that?
I think about 200 and something feet.
And that wasn't a bad guess, isn't it?
Yeah. It's pretty intimidating. Yeah.
Oh, mate, you can have it. So you've done your 10 years. What was the inkling for you to get out?
It was a couple of things. Number one was probably one of the biggest drivers was financial. I just felt that you weren't being adequately rewarded for your work. I left, I was in 38,000 a year. My peer group of friends were settled down, they're buying houses. And I just felt as well, in the branch that I was in, it was such a specialised branch, you literally had to wait for someone to die for a promotion opportunity. So I was staring down the barrel of, I was a 3-badge Kellic. I was good at my job, that just it genuinely didn't matter. In
Yeah.
order for me to get to a petty officer, an RS, I still would have then been going back to sea a lot, because
Yeah.
comms that's the sheer nature of it. You're there to
Yeah.
provide communication services. These are got to bear in mind, I joined when there was Morse code, and by the time I left, we were doing time division multiplexing via satellite, and we had LANs, and email was just starting to come in.
Yep.
And it was just too much time away from home. It
Yeah.
really took its toll on my marriage. My ever suffering wife, I met her on the first weekend that I was home from leave after Cerberus. We're still together. We've got
That's great.
two grown up kids, two beautiful grandkids, and I could just see that that the Navy was changing me, and probably not for the better. I was pretty fed up by the time I got out.
Yeah, I think for me it was a big choice. When I got out, I had maybe an 18-month-old, another one on the way, and I was just like, this is it's been the best job I've ever had, but it's not for me anymore. Family was more important to me at that time, and just on that note, I just can't help but have some kind of admiration or of the people that do long careers, and people that do sacrifice to get, whether it be to the top of the ranks or to the top of the office, it doesn't matter, but man, it does come at a cost.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the price you pay doesn't finish the day you discharge. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. You never truly get out, so to speak.
Well, that's one of the reasons, to be honest, I'm so passionate about doing this veteran business community stuff is, I guess it was like, again, such an important time of my life, even though my life has moved on and we're doing plenty of other things now, but just that connection to that time of life, and more importantly, the people in it is why I'm so passionate about doing this whole veteran business community thing. So you're multiple business owner. You've done plenty in your post life. Did you go straight into business, or did you go out and get a job? First of all, actually, tell us about Meeting Hub. What's Meeting Hub? And then go back through the story of how Meeting Hub started.
So Meeting Hub's an online cloud-based booking system. It's full white label, includes payment processing, and it's designed for anyone that hires out space. So our typical customer could be a business center, serviced office, co-working space, but we also work with local government, not-for-profits. We're doing a rollout with Girl Guides New South Wales, ACT and Northern Territory for all of their guides halls.
Wow.
So you can go onto anyone's website that has space for hire. They'll have a little button, book now, that's going to launch the Meeting Hub software, all branded as them, real-time availability. So you can search, select, book, pay. Funds go directly through to the operator. They don't go via us. And it's a full turnkey solution. So we've been doing that since 2014. We've got customers in multiple countries around the world, here in Oz as well. And that came out of an idea of having worked in serviced officers. When I first got out of the Navy, I had no idea what I was going to do. I really undervalued the skills that I had. Like I could type and I could send and receive Morse code. And I thought, what on earth am I going to do? And it was during that 6 months to 12 months before my discharge when I was literally thinking, what on earth are you going to do? And at that stage, the greenies, or the electricians on board the ships, used to look after all of the IT networks. And I had a petty officer sit down with me one time and he said, look, mate, why don't you go into IT? Substitute a radio transmitter for a server. Instead of bouncing things off the ionosphere, cabling, and instead of using a radio receiver, you use a workstation. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. He said, exactly the same way that you troubleshoot a radio network and you've got encryption and all of that type of stuff. It's IT and networking. And at that point, Novell was the system of choice, which was a little bit like Betamax versus VHS before Microsoft came along. So I went out, put together a full proposal as part of my discharge. Wanted to go off and get a bunch of accreditation and training. And having given my fair pound of flesh, that was rejected, which was disappointing. So, $3,000 in training, no, out you go. So I funded myself through the courses I needed. And I interviewed for a job with Ebsworth and Ebsworth Lawyers, a law firm, as the IT manager. And I remember meeting the general manager, Mike Manick, who I'm still in contact with today. And he said to me, one of the reasons you got the job was something you said during the interview. Yeah, and Mike said to me, one of the reasons they hired me was something I said during the interview, which was what I lack in experience, I make up for in enthusiasm. And that was really had to be my attitude, because the transition, as you well know, into civilian life is really difficult beyond just the skills piece, just trying to fit in. So I stayed with Ebsworth for probably about 3 years all up. I think when I left, I was the national IT director. We had about 1,000 fee earners across the East Coast.
Mm.
And I thought to myself, right, what's the next challenge? So from there, I moved on to a company called Elaw, and I managed all of the IT infrastructure for the HIH Royal Commission, and also the Royal Commission into the building construction industry in Melbourne. So my role was basically building the technology team, building the team that also looked into all of the computer forensics. So I don't know if I should probably say this, but I was the guy that led the team that found the smoking gun that put the guys behind bars, because we found all of the meeting invites, all of the agendas for everything that was going on at HIH, the insurer.
Yeah, right. So was this the
So that was pretty cool.
was that a bit of a start of digital forensics? Had much
Yeah.
of it been around?
It was pretty much in its infancy, but e-law was at the beginning, because what was happening was the courts were saying, look, the process of exchange, which really is exchanging information, it was becoming a paper war. So if you could bury the other party in paper, then they just simply didn't have time to go through it. So the courts mandated that they needed to move to electronic exchange. So Elaw provided a platform which allowed that. So we had remote parties from around the world dialed in, watching the whole court case live streamed, and they could also electronically exchange documents. They could redact them and all that type of stuff. So we had teams of people onshore scanning physical paper into digital. So it was quite an innovative business at the time. So I ran the on-site teams and all the infrastructure there. We had to re-establish technology environments that no longer existed. So DDS2, DDS3 tapes, we'd requested all of the backup tapes as evidence. So we had to rebuild a network, rebuild Lotus Notes servers, restore all of those mailboxes, and then start to basically brute force attack them. So we'd sit down with the legal team, profile the witness, understand what their passions were, and the one guy that we took us forever to get, it was so silly. Like, let's say Pete's going on holidays.
Yeah.
And what you could do is you could search Pete's calendar for holidays, and then search his email, and you would find he's emailed his secretary and said, here's my password. Can you check my email on the way? So we got a lot of evidence that way. But so that was interesting. Then after there, I moved on to PMI mortgage insurance. And I was responsible for all their technology and facilities across Australia and New Zealand. Probably to this day, the best place I've ever worked. I worked for a guy called John Hearn there, and I still consider him, a mentor of mine and a close friend. That was probably the most supportive environment I've ever worked in.
Interesting.
Really,
You mentioned Lotus Notes. I don't think I've even thought of Lotus Notes, or what was it, LNIDs or something like that. I haven't even thought of that for a decade at least.
Yeah, mate, it was crazy. I did Lotus Notes 4 administrator course when I was at Ebsworth. I met a really good guy in Lotus Notes, Gabriel Ripoll. He was an absolute wizard. I've met some really talented guys and girls over my career, and when I hit PMI, I brought all those guys and girls together, and I built the A team. So a bunch of people that I've met over the years. PMI was great. I won an award at PMI, which was all expenses paid trip to Europe. So my wife and I flew over there, which was fantastic. My expense account was like $32,000 for the month. It was crazy. We're treated like absolute kings and queens. There's 100 award winners from around the globe. It was a US-owned company. We arrived in Rome, and the chairman, Roger Houghton, greeted everyone by name, greeted their partner by name, asked how their kids were and knew how old their kids were. He was an incredible man. So mortgage insurance, a lot of people don't realize it's actually lender's mortgage insurance. So it's to offset the lender's risk, not the borrower's. So it was an interesting environment. We got involved in real-time credit scoring. So we were providing the infrastructure to build real-time decision-making. So bring in all this geographic information. What's Pete's job? Where does he want to buy? What's happening with employment in that area? What's happening in house prices? What's the average default time on a loan? And it would spit out scores and just magically score people. And working with my team and changing their attitude towards technology, that they didn't just work on a help desk or anything. We actually had big display screens up, and we've mapped out all of our business processes, align them to the organization's revenue. So that's claims processing, that's mortgage insurance processing. And we used to just call it, that's a dream machine, right? So if that thing goes amber, people can't get in the home. That's what that's about. We're not just supporting servers and stuff here. So that's pretty cool.
I'm looking at this sort of as a pathway into Meeting Hub. So would you say you're a hardware or a software guy, or both?
I'm an infrastructure guy. I'm really good at architecture. So architecture and figuring out the components that make up a business application. I'm deeply business orientated. I can understand a business's objectives really quickly, and then I can cascade that into a technical architecture, and then give that to a technical team to deliver. But I can also spot BS at 1,000 yards. So I know what's possible, what's not. So that was kind of my segue then into serviced officers. So I got itchy feet again. I hadn't traveled for a while from the Navy. So after that trip, that award, Sarah and I were able to come back via the UK. She's originally from the UK, from Red Hill. So we spent 2 weeks on the way back, and I said to her, look, there's so much more of the world we've got to see. Yeah. So we set ourselves a goal within 12 months. We'll be living and working in London. So I arrived in Heathrow. I had $10,000 in my pocket. Didn't know a single person. I had no professional network. I was first checked into the youth hostel at St. Paul's, because I was booked into the one where all the Aussies and Kiwis go, and it actually burnt down the week before I got there. Yeah. And every day I'd get up and get suited and booted. I'd go down to Tottenham Court Road. I'd punch out my CV, ready to attend interviews at short notice. Everyone kept looking at me like, oh, you're just some Aussie backpacker, mate. I'm like, Aussie. No. Yeah. I've got my wife and kids arriving here in 6 weeks, booked on a one-way flight. I'm here. We're doing this. Legit, yeah. I had to find somewhere to live. So my wife we were using Google Maps and Transport for London Maps to figure out commuting distance and cost of rent. We nearly hired a place down in the back of southeast London, which was really, really cheap. And when I went there, I figured out why, because it was next to the Supermax prison. All right, yeah. Probably a super safe place to live in town. Yeah, absolutely. So we ended up renting a place, and it was a shrewd Turkish businesswoman. She wanted 1 month's rent in advance, on the spot on that day, plus 3 months' rent within 7 days. The exchange rate was 3-1. So my 10 grand went, I had about $2,000 left. I landed again. Yeah, financially, we had to start again. While we were there, the housing, we sold our family home, moved all the equity up to Queensland to prop that up. The whole backside dropped out of the property market. We sold our house in Australia, the investment property. It was on Hope Island, mate. Yeah, wow. Yeah. And we accepted an offer, but the estate agent said, no, hang out. You'll be right. You'll get more. 3 months later, I would have bitten their arm off for the same offer. We shipped, I think, $30,000 to the UK. We were renting. We had to start again.
And how many years all up did you do in the UK?
6. We originally went for 3, stayed for 6, just fell in love with it. Toured so much. Like we had a list of countries we wanted to visit up on the fridge. We used to subscribe to Ryanair, all of the cheap budget airlines. We flew to Cork in Ireland for 99p. 99 pence, mate. It was 15 quid in taxes. It was crazy.
It's one of the things, living in Australia, like I'm a travel addict. I've just joined the 50 Club. So I've just cracked 50 countries, last week. And my 9-year-old's in the 40 Club already. So we love it. But from Australia, though, it's just such a long way to get anywhere. Like, it's just 6 hours from Sydney just to get anywhere, or when you're going that way, of course.
Yeah, we used to go to Belgium for lunch. We go to Bruges. So where we lived was down in Kent. So we had a 40-minute drive down to Folkestone, put the car onto the train, and you sit in the car on the train. You read a newspaper, you have a coffee. 40 minutes later, you pop out in Calais. Hour and 30 minutes, you're up in Bruges. Mules, Fritz, beers, turn around and come back home. That was a day trip. It was mental.
That's crazy. I love it.
And even
Love it.
a lot of our friends from the UK were like, why would you go to Europe for lunch? Why not?
It's like, especially when you come from Australia, where driving from Sydney to Coffs, it's a good 6-7 hours. Do that for a weekend, come back.
Exactly. Yeah, they don't drive more than about an hour and a half on holidays. It's crazy. Yeah.
So when did Meeting Hub? When does this thing actually kick off, and what is your role in it? Did you code it? Did you start from scratch? How did you? Because it's a SaaS product, isn't it?
That's correct. Yeah.
100% software as a solution.
100%. Yeah. So I got back. I spent a little bit of time co-working in flexible work. Many years. I set up a joint venture in the UK as well, which was called Da Vinci Virtual. So we built out a network of nearly 200 partner locations throughout Europe. And that was a joint venture between a company in the US and ourselves in the UK. And my father passed away. A couple of other family members were dropping off the perch, so it was time to come home.
Yeah.
And when I got back, I kind of felt like Marty from Back to the Future. I looked around the local market and there was nothing going on. And I was like, there's no internet brokerage. There's very few serviced offices. There's a couple of boutique ones out there, but there's the big guys like, Servcorp, Regis, that kind of stuff. But there was really no tier 2 operators and certainly not many tier 3. So I come up with the idea of Meeting Hub and I started going around and showing it to people and talking to people about it. And I think I was before my time because people were looking at it and going, "What? We don't rent our space out to Joe on the street. We don't do that. Our meeting rooms are exclusively for our internal use." And I'm like, "Well, I've just come from Europe where per square foot, that's the most profitable space in your center. And if you're not taking bookings for it, it just doesn't make sense." So I started to think I was crazy. And then I started working with a contractor to build a functional model. It was pretty ugly. Only a mother would love it. But started showing that to people, and people were like, "That looks interesting. What are you going to do with that?" So I told them. Then we transitioned to building something that was nice and shiny, not so functional. And people were like, "Yeah, I like what's going on with that." We actually signed our first customer before the software even worked. So I thought there's got to be at least 2 crazy people in the world. Me and this person's just signed a contract. So I said to him, "Look, this is how we roll. We'll give you your login details, but we're not going to invoice you. Not until you say you're happy." And meantime, the team's madly coding away to finish it. And it was a guy from a company called the West Perth office. We intentionally chose someone on the West Coast so that if he did log in and find out that, in fact, our software at that time didn't do anything, then it was only a small part of the market that we were going to upset. So it was strategic. And I think it was probably about 6 months later when we had a fully working prototype. And I reached out to this guy and he was so apologetic. He said, "I'm so sorry. I just got busy." I asked, that's fine, mate. The reason I'm calling you is I just want to let you know we've upgraded to the latest version. Log in when you get a chance. And then we moved on from there and just continued to grow.
Mate, with the development side of it, did you outsource it? Did you go to an agency? Did you have your own team? Who's writing the code?
Yeah, so we went for an outsourced partner because I'm an infrastructure guy. I understood the business problem intimately that we wanted to solve. I'd never built a piece of software before. It was a conscious decision to build a piece of software that was a subscription model. So I went on freelancer.com. And here's a free tip. Anytime you list a gig on Freelancer, of course, you've got a bunch of developers on there so they can screen scrape. And the minute you list the project, you get bombarded with about 100 responses. So what I would always do at the very bottom of the brief, I'll attach supporting documents. Everything was there. And I'd say, look, if you're going to come on board and be part of the team, it'd be nice to know what your favorite pizza is.
Yep.
So that was my first screening question. If you sent me a response, you didn't tell me what kind of pizza you like, that's it, you're out.
You're
No
missing the
attention
point.
to
Yeah.
detail. Yeah. And it was surprising. You'd get 100 bids on this project, and out of that 100, only 5 liked pizza. So there was your short list. Then you start talking to the pizzas.
Well, we've just you know, a slight gentle tangent. We're just about to launch a VBC app. So I can't code to the slightest. I wouldn't even know, if the any key doesn't work or the on-off button doesn't work, that's about the extent of my computer skills. But we've just had a really good experience using a company in India to do some development for us, and it should be launched in about a month. But I'm actually really surprised, and I'll do another pod, when the app's about to launch. Just the quality of coding nowadays and how fast they can get really good product done. So more on that later, mate, but I'm excited.
It's changed a lot. Like, we started in 2014 before AI, right? So you were literally paying by the hour for them to cut code. And the trouble is, it was very much like a law firm. By definition, it must be inefficient, because if they could do things quickly and you got your product quickly, then there's a big difference. Like, and you'll find this out the hard way as well, that building software it's like a puppy dog. It's not just for Christmas. Like, once you've built version 1, you'll already start on version 2, and it's like painting the harbour bridge. You get to the end, and then you realize, oh, hang on a sec, I should have put an extra pylon in there, or I should have put an extra this here, or in actual fact, so it's an interesting journey. But we're seeing the same thing with our development team. So we've now gotten to the point where we've got independent contractors that are engaged with us directly.
Yep.
We went through a company, and we had a good couple of years with them. And one thing that I found was that you've really got to be disciplined. You've got to have a really clear idea of, when you're writing your requirements, the what you need, the why, and leave them to figure out the how. So write it user story style.
For someone that wants to build, an app or a software product for the first time, just how much of it can be developed, in your advice, on an intent or an end state? Like you said, the what and the why, but let them do the how.
Yeah, I think a lot of it can, because the trouble that we found was that if we were too prescriptive in how something was done, then inadvertently what you could do is you can build yourself down into a bit of a cul-de-sac. And it also it removes the creative input from the team. So what I would prefer to do, the way that we engage with our guys, is we kind of say, right, we describe a proper user story. So as a Meeting Hub user, when I do this, I want this to happen. So they understand what the user's trying to do, why they're trying to do it. We do mock-ups of screens that we want. We talk a lot about business logic. So these are the conditions which must be met. This is the acceptance criteria. And it took us a while to get that disciplined. Particularly when Meeting Hub started as a side hustle. I'm up in the city, busting my kahunas 4 days a week, doing CRM consulting, Salesforce. I was working on some massive Salesforce projects. Like, I rolled out Salesforce to Pepper Money, all of their back office origination, all their front office mortgage origination, claims processing. So when I first met them, they had 200 Salesforce licenses, and not a sausage had come out the other side in terms of their project. So I got that's probably my other specialty, is getting the outsourced vendor to the table with the business to move things forward, right? These guys can do what you need them to do. You just got to talk their language, and you've got to know how to manage them to deliver. So I'd say, if anyone's thinking about doing it, be patient. Have a really, it's more important to know what you are not than what you are. So for us, in our early days, we found ourselves getting distracted by other things. So people would say, oh, it would be great if it could also do this and do all these other things. And we lost a bit of time. We burned a bit of money on not staying true to who we were. We're a booking system. That's what we do. That's all we do. We're really, really good at it. We don't do front of house check-in. We don't send the bill for these other things that people do. We don't have a social chat within our application so you can talk to other people in the workspace. That's my attitude has always been integration. Choose the best of breed products to solve your business problem, and then just make sure they will talk to each other.
Yeah,
Because
interesting.
the beauty of that is imagine if you've got 4 or 5 key applications in the ecosystem, if one of those applications ceases to perform the function it needs, you can gently pull one out and put one in. But if you've got everything sitting in one big behemoth operating system, the switch cost is so great and the risk is so high
Yeah.
that you end up, remember back in the bad old days when you'd buy software and then you'd pay 20% maintenance.
Yeah.
The reason that model died is because people were paying a massive capital expense to buy the software, and then there was no money for the ongoing support and maintenance. So the value the product was delivering slowly slipped off, and then people no longer had support. They no longer got new fixes and updates. So eventually they're like, I hate this piece of software. It's so old and clunky.
Yeah.
I'll move. So we chose a different model. So it's purely SaaS.
It's really interesting. And again, as I sort of think about the VBC app that we're bringing out, I like what you said. Worry about what you're not, and just keep limited. Now, one of the things that we want to make it very easy for people to find veteran-owned businesses. So what we want to be able to do is, so number one, a directory on your phone, so you can just find the businesses. Number two, the ability to host events, and to let the world know what's going on in your business. Number three, we want a place where there's opportunities. So if someone needs a tech developer, they need a CRM, they need a builder, a plumber, whatever, they can put those opportunities in there. And last but not least, so we can create groups. So how you're in, for example, the Gold Coast, how can you connect and have a Gold Coast group or a tech group or a crypto group or whatever it is. So just be able to create little communities. So we are trying to keep like it ring fenced, but I do take your point well, because how many rabbits can you chase?
Yeah. And that's the trouble, because you don't, it's, you got to figure out what part of the veteran's journey, for want of a better term, do you want to participate in,
Yeah.
and what's, because you can't own that whole space, you can't own that whole journey. And we made that decision. We thought we're just happy to be this piece. And if someone comes to us and they're opening a new co-working space or a business center and they say, all right, what kind of software do I need? Because we also do a bit of consulting in that space. Well, you can get by with using Xero for all of your accounts payable, receivables. That'll send you monthly invoices for all your permanent offices. Use Meeting Hub to book your hot desks, your meeting rooms. It brings people into your space. Use a low-cost CRM. Like I'm a big fan of Zoho. I know you're a big fan of HubSpot.
Yep.
These are great CRMs that do exactly what you need them to do. What people don't realize, though, is out of the box, they don't do anything. You've got to map out that customer journey depending upon who the client is you're working with. And it's just a much better way to go, integrating all those systems. When you, we should talk about, once you've got the VBC app up and running, hooking in our other new venture that's launching next year, Veteran Co-work.
Mate, well, I love it. And again, let's just think about this from a revenue perspective as well, and how Meeting Hub actually can make money for anyone. Literally, if you have a space and you're not using it and someone else can use it, Meeting Hub is the platform that you can make some money off it. That's simple.
So, yep. It integrates with, so it's a simple case of going onto the Meeting Hub website, meetinghub.com.au, sign up for a new subscription. We offer 2 different plans from as little as $14.99.
Yeah, yep.
You put your space into the application. It takes you probably about 45 minutes to set it up. Go and register for a Stripe account. Load in the Stripe keys. As payments processed, the money goes directly to the person that owns the space.
Yeah.
So yeah, if there's people out there that are running spaces, you could be a member of the local surf lifesaving community, for example, and you've got a crew room that you want to hire out for training, or it doesn't matter. You could be an accountant, and you're in your own premises and you've got additional space. and you want to get other accountants in. We work with people who are physiotherapists, clinicians, psychologists, where they're renting out extra spaces and generating revenue out of it.
Yeah.
It just solves that problem.
And like all great SaaS products, it's just simple. The concept.
Yeah. And the software itself is incredibly robust. So the architecture and the way that we've built it, it sits on one version of code. There's not individual instances for each client. That was key. That's how we can keep our costs down. And the way in which we've built the overarching architecture means we can provision a new customer environment in minutes. They can be up and running. So you could literally sign up today and you could be processing bookings and taking payments by this afternoon. It's that easy.
Mate, one of the things that I'm always vulnerable to is, I just call it butterfly chasing, is being able to get on to the next idea. And I can imagine, with someone with your way of seeing the world and the way of seeing problems, there must be more ideas coming up. How do you stay focused on doing Meeting Hub versus, chasing that next thing?
Oh, you sound like my wife, Pete. She says the same. Steve, slow down. We don't need another business. We don't need another idea. I've got about 4 on the go at the moment. So Meeting Hub's obviously a key area of focus. You've got to compartmentalize. You've got to be able to turn around and be realistic. Like, I send myself business ideas. I send myself probably a business idea once a week.
Yeah.
And then every now and again, I find them in my email and I look at them later. I'm like, that's a shit idea. Don't pursue that one. It seemed like a good idea at the time. All the people you were with thought it was a really good idea. So I think what you got to do is you've got to establish very quickly, is there a need? So is there genuinely a problem to be solved? Number one. And the only way you can do that is go and talk to the people who, A, have the problem, or B, the people that can help solve the problem. Then you got to ask them another question. Is it that much of a problem that you're willing to pay for it to be fixed?
Yeah.
And if you are willing to pay to fix the problem, how much are you willing to pay? And once you know that there is a problem, that they want it fixed, and how much they're willing to pay, then the real work starts, where you got to sit there and turn around and say, right, well, how can I build this within that constraint? Because people that build a business and turn around and go, oh, I can see that guy over there, I don't know, let's say installs solar panels, and he makes a lot of money installing solar panels. I might learn how to do that because I can make a lot of money as well. Little do you know, that guy's been doing it for 20 years. So you can't do it at the same cost base as he can, because he's got the experience. So it's not always a case of just, take another idea and undercut it. We see that quite a bit with Meeting Hub, where, some people will say to us, look, I just don't have the budget. And I'm like, well, if you're renting your space out and you're serious, if you're not willing to spend $14.99 a month to have all of that value, and you'd rather pay a person to do it, then best of luck. So to keep focus is difficult. Compartmentalize. Look at early revenue generating opportunities versus long tail opportunities. Think carefully about the route to market. Anything that you have to sell, and you have to sell directly, is going to be expensive to sell. It's going to take a lot of time. If you can create channels and relationships, then that can open up new opportunities easier. And timing. Timing is really important. So, and don't go into business with someone you don't like, you don't trust, and they don't have complementary skills. Because get engaged first. You don't have to get married, right? Get engaged, do a bit of work together, do a little bit of business together, see if you can trust each other, see if your values are aligned, see if your objectives are aligned. And if they are, that's great. If they're not, part ways and don't lose a mate over it.
Some really good points here. The first that I think of is there's a really good book called The Lean Startup. And the Lean Startup, it goes into a little bit more detail than you just glossed over there in 5 minutes, and particularly talking about, getting things to market quickly, testing it. And something you said that also is really important is getting people to pay for it. A lot of people think, can you test my idea, or I'll get an MVP, like try it for free. That's not the point. They've got to reach into their back pocket and pull out their hard earned. Another 100%. Thing. Yeah. Another thing that you
It's a
mentioned
very
there
it's a
is,
very unnatural thing to do too. When you've just met somebody in sales, it's a very unnatural thing to open up your wallet and say, "Here, I'll give you money," because it's all about
yeah.
trust. Yeah, it's
The other interesting thing you put up there is I'm also like an idea generator, and I'm very lucky to have a business partner who is one of my army mates, Matt Mosley, and we all of our
yeah,
businesses, we own half each of everything. So, and we've started everything half. But Matt's, I only need to come up with one good idea a month. The other,
yeah,
15 or 16. Like on Saturday night, I probably 11 o'clock, I'd had a drink or two. I sent him a
yeah,
text. I'm
yeah,
like, I've got a great idea for a sneaker cleaning box.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
He's just like, whatever, man. Because I was just there scrubbing my kids' sneakers for some reason,
yeah,
11
yeah.
o'clock at night. I'm like, oh, there should be a machine to do this. And he's just like, dude, that's a terrible, terrible answer. But someone told me something years ago that I actually was quite surprised by. I had I had a great idea. Um, and when I was telling someone about it, he goes, dude, ideas are only worth 5%.
Mhm.
Ideas
Yeah,
aren't worth that much. If you want to go in it, I'll give you 5% for the idea. I'll do the rest. I was a bit sort of
yeah.
shocked. But I do have one last little story to tell. On a plane home from Adelaide to Sydney one time, I was on my phone, another idea, and I wrote a little business plan for this thing where mums and picking up stuff, whereas they pick the kids up from the school, could go get some milk on the way home for other people through an app, and I called it errands.com, but I did
Yeah.
nothing about it. And ultimately, I don't know what Airtasker is worth 5 years later, but I had a little business idea for errands.com in about 2011. But again, ideas are worth nothing. Execution is worth everything.
Absolutely. And uh, what's the saying? A good plan poorly executed doesn't mean anything. Just get out
Yeah.
there, have a go. Like if you can set yourself a realistic target, do a business plan on a page, and just say to yourself, right, I'm sitting here right now. It's October 2025. By October 2026, I'll be generating this much revenue and be realistic, right? You're going to be generating $1 million. That's just not realistic, and then chunk it up. Eat the elephant one bite at a time. So if you want to be generating 50,000 a year out of this new side hustle in 12 months' time, whilst you're holding down your full-time job, whilst you're putting food on the table and doing all those other
Yeah.
things, then just chunk it in half and say, well, by 6 months I got to be doing 25,000.
Yep.
By 3 months I got to be doing half of that. And then you sit there and go, okay, so how am I going to do that? And get busy with executing. Don't hold back and go for perfection. Like we screwed up our
Yeah.
pricing model so many times with Meeting Hub at the beginning,
Yeah.
and we've still got, aside of the guy in West Perth, he never went live, but we've still got our second customer from Meeting Hub. They don't know
So
that they were
good.
the second customer.
Well, you're onto
Yeah.
something there because one of the things I love sharing with people in business is if you're not embarrassed by your first offering, you've waited too long. You should literally be getting stuff out into the market because that's where you're going to get your best feedback. But the fact you've
Yeah.
still got
And
your
remember,
second customer, you must have been onto something
yeah,
early.
yeah, and remember your MVP is very rarely viable. And that's what we
Yeah.
found. Like we got to the MVP and we thought, right, this baby's ready to go. And we had people coming back and going, well, as a booking system, I would have expected it to do this. And we're like, well, that's
Oh,
unusual. We've never had that feedback before, but that's a really good idea. We'll put that onto our
yeah, I didn't think of
roadmap. And then
that.
we no, we'd frantically go, quick, we need it to do this. And then that became the next feature. And it grew organically. But you've also got to be careful because you will come across some really crazy business processes where people say, I want your software to work around this crazy business process by design. And
Mm,
invariably, that business process exists because technology didn't. And they're so wedded to that particular process that bringing in technology to change things scares them. So you've got to be very careful when you look at some enhancements and say, that is truly unique. You are a snowflake. And I don't think that we can fix that for you. But for the most part, people come along on the journey, and they
yeah.
see what it can do. Without doubt, all of our customers say it's increased their revenue, it's reduced their cost of acquisition, it's reduced their internal administration costs, it's bulletproof, and it's great. It's great. The phone doesn't ring too much, which is good. That's why we're able to live in a bus.
Oh, mate, I love it.
Don't live
So
in a
where's your
bus
next trip?
anymore.
Yeah. Where's your next holidays? Where are you going next?
Well, we're in the process of planning a month in Thailand next
Love
year.
it.
So October next year, I will be in Thailand for a month. So the plan is to then go and start to expand out more into Southeast Asia, but not work too hard.
Mate, I
So
was
we're going to eye off Hua Hin is our place of choice that we've narrowed in on. We've got
what was it
really
called,
good
sorry?
friends of ours. Hua Hin in
Yeah,
Thailand.
yeah.
Our best friends from the UK, it's her 60th birthday, so they're flying over for 2 weeks. So the wife and I, Sarah, we're going to go up for a month, um, hire a villa, just get some downtime and
Mate,
try not to work too much.
I turned 50 a couple of months ago, and me and about 5 mates went to a place called Koh Lanta. So it's a little island about an hour past PP Island, near that sort of Phuket area. And we just got this gorgeous villa, horizon pool, overlooking the ocean, mate. Absolutely spectacular. But what's this thing I've heard about Pattaya? A little bit of an adventure over there.
So Pattaya. So everyone's got that great story that when you work at a place and they say, right, give us two truths, one lie.
Yeah.
Well, the two that I always throw in there, one of which is nude taxi surfing in Pattaya. So to set the scene, I was on HMAs Newcastle.
Hang on, sorry. This is a Navy trip, is it?
Yeah, this is a Navy trip.
I can't believe what trouble Navy lads would have got up to in Pattaya.
Yeah, look, it was an interesting place because we travel around so much. Like we would get to the point where literally you had no idea what the local currency was because you'd be changing currency all the time. And when you first went to sea, it was all cash in hand as well. So there's a Commonwealth Bank on board. You used to walk up, salute 335, sir. They'd hand you cash with a
pick up an envelope, a yellow envelope full of notes.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're in Pattaya. I was on HMAS Newcastle. There was about 4 or 5 international ships in company. We'd been in company for a couple of months on an exercise, and we were blowing off some steam in Pattaya, and we were in a tuk-tuk, me and a mate of mine, Haynes Mac. Haynes is now I was best man at his wedding, so we were close mates. A side story to Haynes, Morse code. He and I went through comm school in different classes, but we were both very good at Morse, so we used to spend a lot of time together. Exceeding in Morse and stuff. And Morse code's like someone's voice, you recognize it.
Yep.
And on RIMPAC 1992, he was on HMAS Hobart, I was on HMAS Success, and we were still using Morse code between the task group. So the ships would take turns to clear traffic ashore. So you didn't have 10, 15 ships all trying to clear traffic. They'd just come to one ship and you'd take it in turns. And I'm up there one night working, I'm sending Morse code and talking to HMAS Hobart. And because you weren't allowed to just have normal chitter chatter because you're doing your job right. And I hear this DE, which is this interrogative, which is a question mark, is this Spud. It's my nickname is Spud.
Yeah, yeah.
And I came back and I go, Roger that. And it said upper decks. So I went up and here's Haynes Mac on HMAS Hobart, completely different ship. I'm like, he recognised my Morse code. Yeah, so roll forward a couple of years. We're both on HMAS Newcastle. We're in Pattaya. We're in a tuk-tuk with a bunch of mates, guys and girls off the ship. And nude drinking is a thing in the Navy. Like a few Army blokes do that, but it's a proper thing. So you go on a deployment and the rules are pretty simple. Someone shouts out, nude drinking, and everybody's pants down. And you got to choose your time, of course. So I turned into Haynes and I said, right, nude taxi surfing, let's go. So we crawl up on top of the tuk-tuk jeepney, and as we're going up and down the main strip, bollocky nude on top of this taxi, we started a Mexican wave. There must have been about 1,000 sailors in. So they're all out the main strip and they're like,
yeah, that stops.
And the guys in the jeepney, our mates, just kept telling the driver, "Oh, we're not sure which bar we want to go to." He didn't know what was going on. We're up on the roof. We get this massive Mexican wave going, and then all of a sudden, we hear this banging on the roof. The mates inside say, "You better get down. The boss isn't happy." And I'm like, "She'll be right. Just paying some extra cash." And he says, "No, the boss behind us." So I turn around.
Oh no!
And there's Commander Howard Furness, commanding officer of my ship, hanging out the window of a taxi behind us. "Spud, get off the..." And here's Haynes and I fully styling up. 3 Calicaros on board that ship, and 2 of us were nude on top of a taxi, buzzing up and down the main street. It was hilarious.
Mate.
It wasn't so hilarious when we had to front the captain's table the next day, though. Yeah.
No, mate. Well, you got to earn your stories. You can't take other people's stories, mate. So there's one that
Yeah,
you've definitely earned there. Well,
absolutely.
mate, what's next for you? So you mentioned a little snippet about Veteran Hub. Is
Yeah,
that too
veteran
soon
co-work.
to is it
No,
too soon to talk about?
no, this is a bit of a veteran business community exclusive. So we're launching a new initiative called Veteran Co-work. And it's been an idea that's been in the background for a number of years. And the idea here is we've all been on our own journey as veterans, and it's very difficult to integrate back into community. We find ourselves, most of us, struggling with issues around moral injury, trust. As much as there's some great initiatives and programs out there from government to support veteran employment, for a lot of these reasons, veterans don't want to be employees because of those trust issues and things. They want to build their own show. They want to be the master of their own destiny because they've spent years giving that up. So we're starting an initiative. It's a global initiative. And the idea being what we want to be able to do is we want to create safe spaces where veterans, first responders, so AMBOs, police, fireys, can come together and work on their business. And indirectly, they'll be working on themselves as well. So it's a two-sided marketplace. We're working with hosts who are people that have workspace, and we're kind of making a call to them that can you make space for a veteran? The business model is pretty simple. At this stage, the working numbers that we're looking at is veteran can sign up to Veteran Co-work for $1 a month. That's it. Our hosts will provide space where a veteran can work from for free. And the veteran can enjoy that space. We're going to curate the spaces to make sure they're appropriate. We're going to make sure that, if you're a creative veteran, then we're going to make sure we match you with a creative space. You'll be able to work from that space, and then they can offer you extra services if you so wish. So if you wanted a virtual office, if you want to hire some of their meeting rooms, go direct through them. We're not creating a brokerage model or anything like that. We're putting veterans' needs first. We're making it as low cost as possible. It's really just about trying to reconnect people. I know for myself and my journey, I got out in 99, and it's taken me pretty much 26 years to come back.
Yeah.
I spent quite a bit of time out in the wilderness, a little bit angry, a little bit despondent, and we're not planning to become replicate the many other models and businesses that are out there to support veterans. This is just something very different. This is about physical space. You know yourself as a business owner, it can be a pretty lonely existence. It's great working from home, but sometimes you do want to collaborate. Sometimes you might want to go and work from a workspace on a Friday afternoon because you need some focus time. So that's due to launch. We've already started to sign up hosts. We're starting to sign up veterans. The official launch date is 1st of March 2026. Our website is up, so you can find us at veterancowork.com. Veterans are already able to sign up, express their interest. There's nothing to pay while we're building out the network. We really want to use the information that we gather. So where veterans are based, it's a global initiative. So I'll be leveraging my contacts in North America, also in Europe, throughout Asia Pacific. So it's not restricted just to Australia. So if you're a member of Veteran Co-work and you travel, you're going to have a host somewhere that can give you a space to work from and look after you.
Mate, I love this. Particularly as someone who travels, regularly myself. I think this is a brilliant idea, and let's do whatever we can to plug it. And when you get closer to launch, let's get you back on here, and we'll do another episode specifically about Veteran Co-work and get some promo out there for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, mate, it's been great to catch up with you again. Like I said, it's been about maybe 3-4 years since we caught up. I think it was in Martin Place in the city.
It was Martin Place. Yeah, with Matt, we had a coffee in there and shooting the breeze, absolutely.
And look, here we are. So, Maddie and I are still, committed to this space. And just something you mentioned a little bit earlier, if you are, part of the military community, and that might be, we don't care if you're full-time, part-time, reservist, what rank or service you did. If you're interested in business, if you're passionate about business, maybe you've got a business already, maybe you're thinking about starting up. The veteran business community is all about that C word community, and you've got, quality people like Steve that have been there and done that. And for me, one of the best things about this community is a sincere group of people who are willing to learn and share off each other. All of our journeys are very, very different, and every single one of us has something not only to learn from each other, but to share with each other as well. So, mate, I appreciate what you do for the community, and I look forward to, learning more about your businesses.
Yeah, no, absolutely, mate. All the best. Lovely chatting to you, and enjoying being part of the veteran business community. Good,
mate. Thank you very much, mate. So if you're interested in learning more about, the veteran business community, veteranbc.com. Otherwise, you'll find us on all of the socials, and just look for my bald mug somewhere smiling back at you. So, Steve, thank you for joining us today. You take care, and we'll see you again soon.
All right, mate. All the best.
Champion, mate. Pete. Thank you.
See you, mate.
My name's Pete. My name's Pete Liston. Thanks for having a listen to this episode of the Veteran Business Community Pod. Out.